that enslaved a wretch like me. You're here, I'm pleased, I really feel your company. Your style, your smile, your pace mentality. Lord, have mercy on me. I was blind, now I can see what a king's supposed to be.
Excuse me, miss. I was in the waiting room when you gave your testimony. And what I realized is that we have an enemy in common. While you were being called to the office again, I was being put out the only home I've ever known. While you were shaking with anxiety and fear over something no one ever wants to hear, I was shaking in dread. Because we all know what happens to little girls that have no home and no one to claim them. I think our souls passed each other by. See, my soul left me a long time ago in a dingy motel room, ripped away by brutal force. It fled, unable to find its way back home.
Historical people, who would you want in your seat and why?
Wow. I guess because I'm different. You know, I'm not really starstruck, and so it would be hard to really pinpoint anybody in particular. First person that just came to my mind, you know, I mean, if I had an opportunity to cut Denzel, you know, I would.
That's a good one.
I'd do that.
That would be a dope conversation.
Exactly.
How important is diversity in your work, considering you grew up in a bilingual, bicultural home?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very important. I think at this point, just in society, there's just so much diversity. You know, whether it be in language, whether it be in your upbringing, whether it be in whatever that is. And so I think growing up in a bilingual household as well as really a bicultural, despite the fact that my parents are both of Hispanic descent, but growing up in two different cultures of very traditional values in the home and very different and sometimes similar values, right, outside of the home, but in different ways, right?
Yeah.
And so,
He tests those whom he loves. I pray he continues to love me till my death. I pray he continues testing me and testing me and testing me until I have no questions left. Until I can ingest knowledge and choke on lies and spit out truth with every breath. But you see, until love for what he loves and hate for what he hates is the only thing that's left within my chest. I know that I will constantly fight to love what's right because I was created with a heart that sits slightly to the left. But I'm okay with that. Because I always knew and always know that he knows exactly what is best. You see, he knew that it would only be a matter of time before I would open my eyes and finally realize that I needed to look deep down inside and pull out the divide so that my heart and my mind would collide and learn to work together.
What's going on? What's going on, my good people? We are back for another impactful, insightful episode of Ordinary Conversations with Extraordinary People. I am your host, Willie Beamen. We are back with another amazing guest. To my left, we had the pleasure of working with her recently in regards to mental health awareness. I believe that's a very important topic, and that's something that we should be diving in and having conversations about all year long. So without further ado, let me give her her introduction. She is a dedicated servant leader, mental health advocate, and community organizer from Fort Worth, Texas. She is the founder and director of CHAMP, which means Community Healing and Mental Health Project. She is also the founder of iLegacy Consulting and Counseling, PLLC, providing trauma informed care and strengthening family relationships. Outside of her business endeavors, she is a proud mother and partner, inspired by her own life experiences to serve others. And last but not least, she enjoys traveling, music, family time, especially with her son, Manny. In person, family, online community. Let's give a warm welcome to the one and only Miss Lachelle Goodrich.
Hello, 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 everybody. I am just ordinary people, just here to impact the community and the people that I have reached, and beyond. So, thank you for inviting me today.
No problem, no problem. I always like to kick off the show just allowing our guests to kind of share their upbringing through childhood and how that was with family and family dynamics and how it
Okay.
got them to where they are today. So how
Ooh.
was that life for Miss Goodrich?
All right. So, Lachelle Grace. McLean is my maiden name. I am born and raised in Fort Worth. I am
Hey,
a Fort Worthian through and through.
me too.
I am a church girl, born and raised in a church. My parents were evangelists on the corner of Berry and Miller preaching, and I was out there singing and
Wow.
all those things. And life transitioned at the age of 14. I had my first child, and so I am 43 and I have a daughter that is 28.
Gotcha.
And so that was very life changing for me.
Yeah.
I decided, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna go off to school. I'm gonna do school locally, all these other things, because I didn't want to leave her with my parents, and so I wanted to make sure that I was active and involved. Um, yeah, I tell people I've been around the block a time or two.
Yeah.
So, especially when clients come see me for counseling, tell them there's nothing you can say that will scare me away or that I even have room to judge, because there's nothing you can say that I have not heard, seen, or probably even done.
Yes.
And so been married. This is my second marriage. Was married for a first time for 15 years. Decided, whatever, life happens, and now this is my second marriage, which is, I think, is the best. I'm much older, wiser,
Praise God.
and so forth. However, like I said, I have two children, and so I have a son who is an architect
Wow.
student at Prairie View A&M, who I am proud of. And then a bonus daughter who started her first year at Southern for nursing.
Okay.
So definitely a fully empty nester, which just gives me more time to work, 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 or just do the things that I do enjoy. So, like I talked about, you mentioned having two of those businesses, private practice, and then a nonprofit,
Right.
but all serve community.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned earlier on, you and your parents being on the corner of Berry and
Hmm.
preaching, you singing. Do you feel like that helped you become confident, having the ability to navigate working with people in regard to where you are
Ooh,
now?
I don't think so.
No.
No, I don't. I've never looked at it from that perspective. I'll say that. I think I had to grow into the confidence and then just working with people. I think my collective lived experience
Yeah,
has
yeah,
helped me to navigate that space, which is why I can authentically say, like, there's nothing you can tell me I haven't seen, heard, or probably even done.
yeah,
So, if I'm giving shock value, that's really just to engage in conversation,
yeah,
not because,
yeah,
like, oh my God, I can't believe, because absolutely not. So I think collectively, yes, as
yeah.
lived
Throughout life,
experience
yeah,
has taught me, because I can play the background real, real, real good. I
yeah.
prefer that. However, I understand destiny and purpose has called me to the forefront in this season of my life.
That's good, good.
Hmm.
You also mentioned, working with people and knowing that whatever they've told you, probably seen, done, or,
Hmm.
or, or even heard. And I think
Hmm.
that points to the perspective of giving people grace, but also meeting people where they are. Because
Absolutely.
throughout life, people are on different levels. They're going through different circumstances. They are in different seasons. And so we have to have the ability to discern and meet them where they are.
Absolutely. Yeah, so that's one of my favorite phrases is, we extend grace, probably a little easier to other people, but also learning to extend grace to
Yes,
ourselves,
to ourselves.
so we can be able to see ourselves in that lens. because we can be very hard on self. And so absolutely. Just forever, people have felt comfortable sharing, like people I don't even know,
Yeah.
or just sharing, like, okay, I mean, I probably shouldn't tell you this, however,
Yeah.
but just creating. I've tried to live a life that I've created a space where people feel seen, heard, and valued, and not judge,
Yeah.
because that's really a space nobody has a place to be in. And so, but then also upholding confidentiality, because we
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
few and far and in between these days.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Mhm.
I can also, relate to that, having the ability to give people grace and meeting them where they are. Even in my life now, I believe a lot of people have come to me and shared
Mhm.
information that they probably wouldn't share with anyone else
Mhm.
because they can trust me
Right.
with that information and giving that space to vent, to be vulnerable without judgment, without criticism. And so I believe even in my 36 years of life, I've went through that. Um, Certain jobs I worked at, certain family members, certain friends,
Mhm.
certain business partners, all through our life, giving them that space to like, hey man, I'm going through this, just giving them space to vent.
Right.
And so I think that's very, very important, 'cause you never know what people are experiencing.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree with that. When you look back over your early memories of growing up in Fort Worth, I'm also a Fort Worth native as well. Grew up on the South Side,
Mhm.
Riverside, in Jesse. My granny's house is still here to this day.
Mhm.
Rest in peace. Make sure we're keeping that in the family as
Very
far as
good.
legacy. And so, yeah, I'm familiar with the Fort Worth
Yeah.
streets. Went to OD Wyatt, went to South Hills, and so definitely familiar
Okay.
with this area. So, looking back, what are some of your earlier memories of community and connection growing up in Fort Worth? What did that
Hmm.
look like for you?
I would say my mom. Now that we kind of put things in perspective, my mom was we whether it was my cousins, because maybe my aunt had a drug addiction, right? So maybe it was my cousins picking them up, and then they aunties to go to church, right?
Yeah.
That's community.
Yes.
It,
Yes.
it doesn't always necessarily look like going to the homeless shelter and feeding or whatever. So I would say that has been my earliest memory of community, is my mom having this big heart, but leading people to Christ. She always going to invite you to church, all of those
That's my
things.
granny too.
Right. And
Yeah.
then on the flip side, my uncle on my dad's side has always been heavy in community and working with youth. And so he has a group, Stop the Violence. And
Mm.
so
Wow.
and that was birthed out of really a tragic, my other uncle, which was his youngest brother, being killed by gun violence.
Wow.
And so, community on both ends, on different spectrums, right? A call in response to a family member being killed by gun violence. And then on a different end is bringing people, taking them to church, feeding them. We used to go to, and this may be beyond your time, beyond your time, but we would always pick them up, take them to church, and then after church, we would either go to Colonial's cafeteria or Wyatt's cafeteria, which is no longer around. But that's community as
Yes.
well.
Yeah.
So I was able to have it from different spectrums,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
to kind of see where I wanted to fit in.
Yeah, yeah. Now
Hmm.
that's important, and especially in the times that we're in now. I mean, community is definitely important. Making sure
Absolutely.
that you are connecting with the right people, making sure that you are partnering with the right people, and and building.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's not about building the actual building; it's about building people.
Right.
Building
Absolutely.
them up, and so definitely can attest to that as well. My grandmother, giving open arms to everybody who was on that street.
Hmm.
When she was alive, and pouring into people and giving them something to eat if they needed food. And so, now I think that's definitely important, but it also points to the perspective of discipleship, making sure that we're walking with life through people. That's one phrase that my little brother, Darrell, would always use when it comes to that, making sure that
Hmm.
we're walking through life, with people, whether it be them on the mountaintop or whether it would be them in their valley
Right.
experiences, and so I think that's very, very vital.
Yeah.
Yeah, when it comes to community. How did your environment or neighborhood influence your sense of purpose and service? And the reason why I asked this question, because we always hear the phrase of I'm a product of my environment.
Hmm.
And so even for that, I was watching a interview yesterday, the Pivot podcast, and they had Anthony Ramos on there, well-known actor, played in I believe the latest Transformers. And so he was talking about how during his acting career that he moved in with his auntie because the neighborhood he lived in New York with his mother was very violent, was, you know,
Mhm.
was drug infested. And so in order to make sure that he was excelling, he had to get out of their environment
Right.
and move in with his auntie. And so for you growing up in Fort Worth, you know, how did that influence your sense of purpose and service now?
Yeah. So I would say, I tell people from my mom had these great godparents that we just grew up calling our granny and papa, right? And
Yeah.
so they lived around the corner from where my mother was raised. And so we went over there every weekend, and that's in Greenway,
Hmm.
right? Very small community, maybe 5 streets going one way and maybe 3 going the other. Very small community, but that is where we learn how to ride bikes. we
Yeah.
can we can ride to the store. I only had one little small neighborhood store, and so forth. So that played a huge role, but our primary residence for the most part of my life was in Poly.
My mama went to Poly High School.
My mom graduated from Poly as well,
Yeah.
and so was in Poly. And then we moved once the neighborhood. We started to see sex workers walk up and down the street, and so my
Wow.
mom told my dad, like, hey, we need to do something different. And so then my sophomore year we moved to Southwest Fort Worth.
Mm.
And so my mom still lives in that area to this day. We were so ingrained in church. I don't mean that we didn't do, things we had no business
Of
doing. I
course.
just
Yeah,
said,
we
right, I
human,
had my,
fam. Yeah, we make
daughter
mistakes.
at 14, right? And so I just kind of think, we wasn't exposed to like a lot of other culture things.
Mm.
Um, so I didn't learn about Angela Davis, the
Mm.
activist, until I got grown. And of course, most cultural things we just kind of learned when it comes to Black history, right? The things that the surface stuff that they
They
teach
teach
you in
us. Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
So church is really what I knew up until I decided that at a really early age that I was gonna, get married and be grown, right? And so um a lot of my adulthood kind of shaped early like 18, 19, kind of shaped the person that I am today. Like
Right.
I said,
Absolutely.
my younger like I said, we were in church, so I knew that you had to serve.
Yeah.
So from intercessory to praise and worship in the
Yeah.
choir,
Yeah.
whatever, that's what you did. I learned how to play the piano at an early
Oh
age.
wow.
Stopped that real. I was like, I don't
Say it
want to do
wasn't
this.
it.
I don't want to do this. And I should have kept doing it, but it is what it is. So that played a role. The foundation of church. Of course, relationship is different as you
Yes.
get
It's
older. So yeah.
different. Yeah.
Hmm.
Speaking to that, I believe servant leadership is very, very important no matter what space you're in, no matter what area you're in. And so for me, that's how I always would, you know, look at my life as well. Even
Hmm.
those who are connected to me, my mother, my grandmother, certain siblings, uncles, just watching them serve, you know, without complaining, without murmuring, and just, you know, getting the job done. And so I think
Hmm.
servant leadership is very, very important, putting yourself aside for the betterment of other people,
Hmm.
making sure that they're getting, you know, their needs met. And so, very, very important for you. What would you explain? How would you explain service leadership in your life? What does it look like for you? Because you're in different spaces.
Right. So my team can never outwork me, right? So that's part of serve, because I don't like whatever they doing, I can do too.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Um, but you said something that I think has just kind of been passed on, putting myself aside to serve other
Other people.
people.
Yeah.
I want us to kind of shift the way we even think about that. Why can't I make sure that I'm full, right?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
rested,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
what I need,
True.
and then I give from the overflow.
Well said.
My and I kind of take that from my sister-in-law, Stay Hall, but giving from the overflow. So that means that I'm taking care of myself
Yeah.
mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically.
Yeah.
So then I am the best, and I can give the best to the people that are called to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if I'm running on fumes,
My God.
my temper
Yeah. Yeah.
is gonna be short. So
Yeah.
I could be snappy,
Yeah.
right? That means I'm not serving, sorry, of excellence. And then which could potentially turn people off.
Yeah.
And so I just want us to kind of revisit and giving from the
I
overflow
like that.
as much as we
I
can. We
like that.
probably won't always, but and then I think sometimes we take on the God concept where we need people to need us
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we feel good,
Yeah.
right? Instead of I'm a vessel, I'm a conduit. Um,
I like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I'll leave it there.
I
No.
like that. It's funny you say that because I remember teaching a lesson about the two thieves that were on the cross, and when you look at their natural nature of a thief or a criminal, is to take rather than to
Mhm.
give. And so when you think about our various relationships with people, whether it be family, business leaders, friends, co-workers, if there are more withdrawals than deposits, then you become empty. You
Mhm.
become what I call spiritually bankrupt.
Mhm.
It's like going to take something out of the bank and you see that insufficient fund because there's
Right.
nothing there. But you correlate that to, us, giving from the overflow. And that's well said. I like that because you can't pour from an empty cup.
Right.
You'll be exhausted, you'll be frustrated, and you won't give those people the best version
Of
of
you.
yourself.
Right.
So no, that's well said. And that's something I gotta work on too.
I think and I think it's
Yeah.
something that we should constantly be working
Yeah,
on. Yeah.
yeah, I totally agree. Going back to the what I talked about earlier in your bio, you being in the space of mental health, because that's very, very important. What first inspired you to start this journey of community service and the mental health advocacy? Where did that come from?
Yeah, so I grew up, I'm sure most of us have. I grew up in the era of, and if you know what it is, you can finish it. What goes on in the house stays
Same
on
here.
in the house,
Right,
right?
right.
And so I think that was very detrimental to our generation. Um, but again, you only know what you know,
Yeah,
right? And so we should always, and growing up, I just remember, did we really have, we had school counselors, but it was more so of conflict resolution in elementary and middle school.
right.
It was more so of in high school, really just your schedule. The one lady that helped me the most in navigating was the social worker at Southwest High School that worked with either pregnant or teen parents. Miss Sabrina, I cannot think of her last name, but she was very instrumental in kind of maybe the surface level of mental
Health.
health.
Yeah, yeah,
Then I went to work for Forward Housing Solutions, and then just working with just certain individuals, but then became aware, like people will always come to me with their stuff,
yeah. Same
right?
here. Same here.
Not that they were looking for me to help or for me to fix it or give them answers. They just felt comfortable to process different
Yes,
things.
yes.
And so although my undergrad degree is in business, I I realized I needed to really shift my focus in on what I do well effortlessly.
Yeah,
And so when people come to me and we're trying to navigate what kind of career, my first question is, well, what do you do well effortlessly?
I like
What
that.
you can do in your
In
sleep.
your sleep. Yeah,
And so I was debating between, do I do social work? Because I work for Forward Housing. I work with the families that, needed these different resources with education, economic mobility, whatever the case may be. Said I wanted social work, which really kind of helped them navigate the different systems
mm,
versus counseling. And for me, it was, I wanted to be able to figure out, just working with the different families and just different people, why we do what we do.
mm,
Okay.
yeah,
Why do we respond? Why do we behave? Why do we speak? Why do we do what we do?
yeah,
And a lot of that is stemmed from our childhood
yes,
experiences.
Yeah.
And that overflows to our adult relationships,
Relationships.
workships,
Yeah.
friendships, all of those ships.
Ships.
And if we don't recognize those things, it can be detrimental. It can be the reason why we don't stay on jobs. It can be the reason why we
That's
don't
so
have long
good.
term friends.
That's so
It
good.
can be the reason why we stay in abusive relationships. It can be the reason why we stay at a church that has been abusive.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
because it's what I know, and it's because this is where my big mama went to church, and I'm just gonna stay here and just be abused physically, mentally, verbally, whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
And so for me, it was okay, why do we do the things that we do? That's what I really want to get to. Then we can be able to address these behaviors because we know the
Yes.
root cause.
Yes.
So working at Fort Worth Housing in my early years, like 20, 30, that is what really helped me figure out business was good. I did like my undergrad is in business, that I really wanted to move into counseling versus social work.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. No, it's well said. You mentioned doing things effortlessly. I had well-known poet G.F. Soldier on the show last week, and he was talking about um, things that we do effortlessly are the things that are considered to be our purpose,
Mm-hmm.
in life and serving people in many different areas and in different ways. And so I like how you said that. And so, but mental health is definitely something that we should always keep at the forefront. Like you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, the surface level stuff won't get us
Mm-hmm.
anywhere.
Right.
And even me having conversations with my wife, she would always say, "What's the root?
Mm-hmm.
Let's get to the root. If we
Right.
figure out what the root of this
Right.
problem is,
What we really talking
what
about.
we really talking
Right.
about,
Right. Right.
let's go deeper."
Yeah.
And I think that'll help us, deal with those adult
Yeah.
behaviors and patterns on the things that we're doing now. So, no,
And
you're right.
and I say we will we we have to look at the spectrum, right? We have mental health. Everybody has mental health,
Yeah.
right? Now, whether you have a mental illness, health illness, or if you have the mental wellness piece of things.
Hmm.
So, and then sometimes the illness is acute or it is chronic, right? So um, I may be going through depression, but it's because an adjustment in my life. Something has happened, a divorce has happened.
Right.
And so now I'm dealing with depression, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it is chronic, that it is major depressive disorder,
Gotcha. I
right?
like that.
It has something has changed or shifted in my life where I'm dealing with this temporarily, right?
Gotcha.
Or I can be on, so I'm dealing with this temporarily. However, I done went through counseling, I've done my work, whether I need medication or not, I'm back at a stable place, a mental wellness piece. So
I
then
like
I go
that.
back to the mental wellness piece
I like
instead
that.
of the illness. And so I always tell we all have mental health, right? Am I on the spectrum of I'm dealing with a mental illness, or I'm on the spectrum of mental wellness?
Wow. Well said. So I guess what would be the difference between being on the spectrum of mental wellness, or what would be some examples of mental illness?
Mhm.
What does that look
So we
like?
talked about, just some of the main things that we just commonly know: depression,
Yeah.
anxiety, um, ADHD.
Mm,
And
yeah.
so it is National ADHD Awareness Month, which is kind of why I bring that up. Um, and of course, you have some more of the severe diagnoses, such as bipolar schizophrenia
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
forth. Um, on the wellness side of things, it is that my mental state is stable.
Stable. Yeah.
I am I'm using, I understand my triggers, I'm using my coping skills,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm stable, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that I'm always, oh my
Of
God,
course. Yeah.
all those things. It means that I'm at a stable place
Place.
for me. That could look differently because there are just some people, they are just have this natural high. Um, and that works well for them, right? But there are some people like that's not their personality.
Yeah.
And so just kind of knowing what those differences are.
Yeah. 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 Well said. Going back to what I mentioned earlier, the Pivot Podcast, who's has Ryan Clark, Shannon Crowder, and Fred Taylor, retired sports guys. But most of the time when they start off the show, they always ask each other, "How you doing?
Hmm.
What's going on? Is there any way that I can help?" Because as men, we don't do that.
Right.
We see it a lot with women. They come together, have different groups, talk about mental health and things that are going on with them and having that space. But as men, we don't do that a lot. And so I'm finding myself getting into spaces or group chats, checking in on my brothers, checking in on my pops, checking in on certain men, because there's this phrase that I shared on some podcasts a while back that we're taught to be Superman. We're taught to put on this cape,
Right.
365 days in the year, but we're never taught to be human.
Right.
We're never taught to be vulnerable
Right.
or show
Because no
emotion.
matter what the gender is, we're all human
Yeah.
and we all have emotions.
Yeah.
And so, but I think that how we break that stigma is as parents, and we're having, we having children. It's we have to okay, you can cry because that's
Yeah.
emotion. That's
Emotion.
that's a
Yeah.
natural feeling emotion.
Yeah.
That does not vary between boy and a girl,
Nah,
right?
true,
And so
true.
getting out of, getting rid of those myths of you a boy, you shouldn't be crying, right? That's like totally whack.
Yeah, I agree. It's
And
unhealthy.
so we have to change our thinking. We have to change our vocabulary. Now, whether they're like you said, having these casual conversations, checking in. This is how we also teach people to be emotionally intelligent.
Emotionally intelligent, yeah. Totally
yeah.
agree, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, because believe me, I always say that real men cry.
Right. Absolutely.
That's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't make
Absolutely.
you less of a man. It doesn't
Right.
make you less masculine. I believe it is okay, man, because it shows your emotional
Right.
intelligence. There's been many times, whether it be here or at home with the wife or certain brothers that I've shared tears because it's
Right.
human nature.
Right.
It's okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I totally agree. Let's make a pivot. Walk us through the backstory of how Champ came to life. What does that journey look like?
So I already had my private practice, iLegacy Consulting and Counseling, and everything that I do really is to make people feel comfortable to get the services that they need around their mental health.
Yeah.
CHAMP, Community Healing and Mental Health Project, was birthed out of the community's need to process their feelings and emotions after the killing of a Tatiana Jefferson.
Wow.
And so, of course, we know that took place in 2019, the South Side, and we don't have to dig much into, but it made national news.
It did, yeah.
And for me, my prayer was like, okay, what's my solution, or what can I bring to the table?
What can I contribute?
Right.
Yeah.
And in that particular neighborhood that impacted the most are Black and brown people. And we understand that minorities, not we'll talk about the mistrust of the healthcare system that we already have.
Yeah.
Let alone going back to what I talked about, what goes on in the house stays on the house. So we don't tell people our business. We really don't talk about, feelings and emotions, because what's this love language and what's this emotional will? Like, I don't know what that is, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, it was providing a safe space where they saw people that looked like them, not only just look like them, because we already know our kinfolk is not our skin folks, not kinfolk, right? And so, but people that spoke their language, that made them feel valid, validated, to say I'm heard, right? And so that's how we started CHAMP. Part of our foundational programs were the Unity Healing Camp, which was bringing kids together from the East Side and
I
Morningside,
love that.
middle school students, to have a farm experience, over a weekend experience, where we talked about conflict resolution, social emotional. They learned team building, entrepreneurship.
That's cool.
They were exposed to archery and kayaking and flying kites, things that I did as a kid that we really don't do anymore, right? Feeding farm animals. And so being able to partner with two other business partners, community partners, and being able to do that was a great one of our foundational programs, as well as providing our free youth and family mental health counseling sessions.
Wow.
And so where they get 8 free counseling sessions if they had been exposed to trauma, gun violence, which that's really everybody.
Yeah.
And so providing those services. So that's how CHAMP was being able, we wanted to provide a solution to the trauma that the community had experienced around that killing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow. Wow. Well said. I definitely love the story. Definitely impactful. Definitely needed. And you figuring out, okay, well, what can I do to
Right,
contribute to
right.
this awareness? That's amazing. Even with recently, you guys coming here and hosting your event here,
Hmm.
and then you walking me outside, touring the mobile
Unit,
unit.
yep.
That thing was amazing, man. And so I want you to kind of break down what does that consist of in
Yeah,
regards to children and gaming and all that stuff.
yeah. So we started in 2019, but officially became a 501c3 in 2021. Just as time went on, and as we would evolve, I had a dream in December of 2023, and that dream was what we see today, a
Today,
mobile mental wellness clinic. We have mobile units that are around breast cancer
wow,
screening, um, prostate, Black Heart Association
yes, they were here.
regarding
Yeah,
heart health, but we had nothing that spoke to nothing in the community that spoke to mental health.
health. Yeah.
And so we do bring the first mobile mental wellness clinic to the state of Texas, and we are in the
Wow,
process of
that's huge.
we're in a trademarking process as well. But that was my dream. And so in July 2024, we purchased it. A lady was trying to outfit it to be a small, tiny home. Didn't work out. So we purchased it and we transformed it to what you saw the other day. It is where we can provide various service, some from some group sessions
Yeah,
to one-on-one small groups, just serving the community on what their needs were. The day that you saw it, what we were doing is we're piloting a program called Mind and Mood Assessments.
hmm.
And so where we do a pre-assessment to kind of gauge where they're at, how they're feeling.
Exactly. Yeah,
Then they would go inside the mobile unit and they will play these different games. Of course, increase their heart rate, their
wow,
adrenaline,
that's
and
amazing.
then do a post assessment to say, okay, now how do you feel? Because those natural endorphins really combat
Yeah.
depression.
Wow, wow.
So if our body is producing low serotonin and those endorphins that are just naturally happy chemicals, if we're low with that, then we do deal with depression. And when I talk to people about around depression, I'm like, it's nothing that you've done, right? Sometimes our bodies just don't produce the right chemicals that
Mm,
naturally make us feel good.
wow,
Is no different than people that have insulin resistant. That means their body isn't producing enough or they're producing too
too
much.
much. Wow.
Has nothing to do, sometimes it has nothing to do with what they had to eat. It's just their body, especially when you have a baby that is born where they produce low insulin. Nothing that they did. So the same thing with when it comes to depression. So um, assessing pre and post assessing how they feel before they do this 7 to 10 minute high intense gaming, and then a post on how they feel.
Yeah.
And so then that way we can educate the parents on them moving their bodies. So many times they're sedentary because they're playing
Right.
games, sitting down playing games. But if we can get them engaged and get them, I'm not against playing games, right? But if we can get them engaged and active and moving their body, then it brings about a different perspective.
Mm, I love it. Yeah, definitely. For what I'm hearing, is a powerful system and strategy in place to make sure that, okay, here's the post assessment. Let's make sure we're sharing this with the parents to see how they
Absolutely.
feel, to see how
Absolutely.
they're moving, see
Absolutely.
where they are mentally, see how they're feeling after the effect. And so even when we were talking, when you were leading me to the truck, you talked about how, this generation now, they love gaming.
Absolutely.
It's what
Yeah.
they do. They can sit
Yeah.
home. That was me when I was a kid. I would play video games all the time. But how you've implemented gaming with the aspect of mental health, I think that's so
Yeah.
powerful. I think that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So this summer, we did a think tank because another vision that we have, we are building out a virtual reality mental health gaming system called Healware. So we brought together 13 youth across the city. over 2 days, and they built out their avatar, what that looks like,
Wow, that's cool.
scenario based, how you would originally respond when you're triggered, what are some positive coping skills, how can you deal with these different scenarios and situations
I
differently in
love
a more
that.
positive manner. Again, if you can't beat them, we're gonna join them.
Yes, that's something we
So
talked
from
about.
high
Yeah,
intensity playing, something that's already made to versus us doing research and development of an app.
yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Well, I'm looking forward
Yeah, I'm
to that,
excited. I'm
man.
excited.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. How do you keep people engaged in mental health conversations in communities where stigma, still exists? How do you keep that
Yeah.
conversation going?
So I'm gonna say I think COVID um shed enough light around our mental health
Yes, yeah,
that
yeah,
it is talked about a lot more than usual, as well as churches are talking about it more, and it just kind of becomes casual conversation. They may not use clinical terms, but I think COVID shed a light because kids had to stay home, parents had to stay home,
yes, yeah. It was different.
and so you when kids and your spouse at home, when y'all used to being away from each other 10 hours
Exactly.
a day, now
Yeah,
you start to see and you were kind of confined, but you start to see where children are more in their rooms more, and then they became depressed, or they had increased anxiety when they had to go to the grocery store or they had to return to school, because I don't want to get sick and take this back home to my granny
yeah,
or to
yeah.
my papa or to my mama that I know is already sick.
Wow.
So then we saw a lot of anxiety around that. But parents were very proactive on reaching out. In fact, that is when my private practice really spiked in
Wow.
business during that particular time. So now that COVID is wherever,
Yeah.
I think parents, because we continue to highlight mental health awareness, we continue in schools and in the community. It's becoming casual conversation. I just think we just have to continue to create spaces where people don't feel shamed
Yes, I totally agree. Yeah.
when talking about whether because they'll talk about, okay, I think my kid is dealing with whatever, but then when I bring them in, then we're able to discuss what's really going on,
Yeah.
what's the family dynamics. Do you deal with depression?
Mm. Yeah.
Tell me about the dad side. Do dad deal with depression or anxiety or um anger issues and so forth. So when we're able to navigate those real conversations in a safe space, people are more open to
Yeah.
talk.
Nah, I definitely agree. Yeah, COVID definitely shook up the
Right.
world. A lot of lives was lost, man. And I mean, even on my side of the family, losing certain people to COVID. My wife lost her grandmother to COVID, and
Mm-hmm.
so, like you say, a lot of these different things were spiked. The panic attacks,
Mm-hmm.
the anxiety, all
Mm-hmm.
these different things were on the rise because of us being confined,
Right.
in this one space.
Right.
But yeah, we just gotta continue to, like you said, have these casual conversations, but not stay surface level.
Right.
Let's get to the root.
Right.
Let's really see.
And I think as community members, family members, it's okay to be surface. Just point them to the
Yeah,
person or to someone or agency that they can get to the root, because there's certain things that I'm gonna talk to my therapist about that I'm not talking to my mama
yeah,
about.
yeah, yeah,
And so I just think that, yeah, we just have to be kind of mindful of that.
yeah, yeah. You mentioned earlier on making sure that we're giving from the overflow. So for you, wearing all these different hats, you serving people, being in the mental health space, putting all these different programs and systems in place for people to have, mental health awareness. What are you doing as a mental health advocate to make sure that your cup
Right.
stays full?
So as I mentioned, I see a therapist
I do too. I just
that I
started.
absolutely love. She
Yeah.
speaks my language. I don't have to come with a shield on. or with a certain vernacular. I can just be me. And so that's one. Exercising, which
Yes.
releases
Yeah.
those, and I ain't talking about hardcore. I'm just gonna get on the treadmill
Yeah, that's
or the
me.
bike, and
Yeah. Something
or
like
go outside, because what I've learned is, as I work at home, I have to get some more sunlight. So instead of me working at home all the time, it's actually going out to co-working spaces.
mm,
Not necessarily I need to talk to other people, but to hear
yeah,
other noise and so forth. So that's some self-care.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, and just doing things that I enjoy, but then also learning boundaries to say no, because
Yes. Yep.
I can overly commit, and I will deliver. However, I don't want to be the one that is delivering from the empty well.
Mm,
And so, like I
yeah.
said, therapy, doing some type of
Yeah.
exercise.
Yeah.
um and then I've blocked off my calendar on Fridays for the most part,
Boundaries. Yeah.
to do self-care, whether it's watching TV or doing nothing.
Yeah.
I'm okay
Very
with that.
important.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Very important. You
Hmm.
mentioned going outside. I think that helps a lot. And I can attest to this because in 2023 of April, I had a major foot surgery that had me down for like a year and a half. And
Mm.
so couldn't walk, couldn't
Right.
do much. So my wife, she's working, trying to take care of me. I had other people, family, friends that were, help support me, getting me through that season.
Hmm.
And so being at home, going back to the COVID aspect, being confined, really dark and hard season. Depression was leaking in, and insecurity was leaking. All these different things that I was
Hmm.
feeling because I wasn't mobile,
Right.
couldn't do anything. And so going back to what you mentioned, being outside, my wife was like, "Hey, we got to find a way to get you out of this
Hmm.
slump." And so what we gonna do? Because I had a knee scooter in the
Right. Right.
boot.
Right. Right.
So what we gonna do? We gonna get you out of this bed. We just gonna go outside and have a
Right.
walk. And
Absolutely.
so I go outside. I prepare myself. And the moment I get out there and I'm just riding and feeling the breeze and the noise you
Yeah.
mentioned and
Yeah.
fresh air, man, it did something to me,
Right.
man. It boosted, my energy, my spirit was
Right.
different. And so I love how you mentioned, that as well.
Yeah.
Cause yeah,
Sunlight is what we
yeah,
need. That vitamin D. If you look at people that are in jail,
yeah.
right, and they put them to solitary confinement where they don't get access to outside because that's to break them. And so if
Mm,
you look at it, we're not in that space, and I'm constantly inside. I don't have that fresh air, that
mm-hmm.
vitamin D of the
Yeah,
sun. Then naturally, that it's going to break
it's
us.
gonna break us.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I totally agree. Let's make another pivot. We talked
Okay.
about this earlier off the show and how you were um working with Fort Worth, housing solution, and we
Mhm.
talked about the renovations that are taking place in Fort Worth. So talk about working with Fort Worth Housing Solutions and transforming that historic area of Stop Six.
Mhm.
And what does that look like?
So I'm no longer there.
Okay.
I left in April of this year, but was very, so I collectively worked there for 17 and a half years.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so this last go around, I worked there 5 years before I went to go teach at a feeder school that fed into at that particular time Butler. So I was able to teach my kids from Butler.
That's cool.
I came back and was there 12 and a half years, but I had the privilege and been in a couple of roles. When I came back as the coordinator that I served, service coordinator that I served those families there in Stop Six projects, Cavill Place, to help them become self-sufficient,
Mm,
right? Put
yeah.
together a plan on what education, economic mobility, all of those, whatever they needed to get on their feet,
Feet.
not
Yeah.
necessarily to move out, but to become self-sufficient. So I worked very diligently with those families, and then it came a time where the agency talked about, doing some renovations
Yeah.
or even, relocations, all of those things. And so for me, because I'm born and raised in Fort Worth and I had built such a great relationship with those families, I'm like, y'all can't do this without me. So
Mm,
I then began to lead the relocation part of that. So
Gotcha.
that was a huge lift, right? So 236 families that I
Woo.
relocated
Wow.
within an 11-month period of time, not just relocated, but made sure that we imposed less harm as possible.
Mm,
We knew that
I
there
like
was
that.
harm because we're uprooting you from your
Home.
home,
Yeah.
right? So making sure that you knew where, like, where did you want to go, what schools was in the area, what amenities where you decided to move, what was there. So building out a team that helped provide that. Then moved into the demolition and now the development of these new apartments, multifamily homes in that area. Um, so yeah, it w- I, it was very personal for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I held, the agency up like, hey, we need to do what's right.
Hmm. Hmm.
Making sure that the families had case management and the tools that they need to be successful for at their new home,
Yes.
plus had the
Yes.
right to return if they wanted to.
Wow. Wow.
If they didn't, then I would have left a long time ago. But they did, right? And so they have great case managers that are helping them not only where they're at, but to make sure that they can come back if
Yeah.
that's what they want to.
Yeah.
Some people got homes, right? And so they may not want to come back to an apartment complex. Whatever works for them, that's why it's called a choice neighborhood, because I have a choice to return or to stay
Or
where
to
I'm
stay
at.
where I'm at. Yeah.
So that was a great
That's amazing.
experience, overseeing, all of our contractors. So from development to construction to case management to designing of those developments to ensuring that history and legacy was
Yes.
there.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So in the Hughes house there is a nice mural, there are basketball
That's cool. I'm gonna go check it out. I haven't been
Yes,
over there in so
please,
long.
please, please
Yeah.
do.
Y'all go check it out, man.
There is public art that is coming, and so hopefully they stick to that plan. But it should always be community focused, right?
Yes.
There
Yes.
is
I
some
agree.
space where business owners will be able to lease and have their businesses. So whether you're a barber, a beautician, whatever, coffee shop, there are spaces that
That's
are in that
amazing.
that they are actually now looking for tenants to lease out. So
Wow.
yep,
Wow. That's amazing.
tell them Lachelle sent you.
Yes, please tell them Miss Lachelle Goodrich sent
Yeah.
you, man. I was just talking to Miss Charlotte offset about, it being named Hughes, and
Mm-hmm.
definitely need to go check out the area because I haven't been
Absolutely.
over there since the demolition
Absolutely.
and how it was, so I definitely need to check it out because like you mentioned, it's our history
It
and we want to
is.
make sure we keep that history in place. So no, I think that's definitely important. And also, like you mentioned earlier, it has to be community focused,
Absolutely.
has to be community driven. What are the needs of these people? And I love how you mentioned if they don't want to stay in their new area, that they can come back to where they
Absolutely.
wanted to be,
Mm-hmm.
making sure that there's resources and people in place to make sure that those needs are being met. And so, well-rounded team, yeah, to
Yeah.
be able to put that together.
Yeah.
Um, there's a phrase that says, "If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to
Mm-hmm.
go far, go together."
Absolutely. I agree.
And so it takes a village
Right.
to be able to complete those things. Going back to you mentioned serving and helping the community. How can everyday residents get involved in building stronger and healthier neighborhoods? What does that look like for the people
Yeah.
in the neighborhoods?
So if you have a neighborhood association, get involved. If you don't, start one. Community asset mapping is really good because a lot of times everything that we need is already there.
Yeah.
We just don't know, how to get in contact. So pulling together community leaders to do some asset mapping. So you'll know what schools,
Yeah.
what's the contact number, who's the principal,
Yes. Yes.
what churches are in the neighborhood, what services do this church on Tuesday have food pantry, do they have a clothing closet, and so asset mapping is always good. But then like I said, if join your neighborhood association, if there's not one, get with the city on how to start one.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
first place. Yep.
Yeah. Gotcha. Gotcha.
Mhm.
You talked about earlier as well your consulting practice. So
Mhm.
let's talk about iLegacy Consulting and Counseling. What inspired the name iLegacy?
So, of course, iPhone, all those things, but who really leaves the legacy?
Hmm.
I leave the legacy. And so for me, our legacy, not just wealth, because a lot of times we think about
Yes, that's the
legacy
first thing we
for
go
its
to.
monetary,
Monetary.
right?
Yeah.
But I leave the legacy on making sure my mental health is good. So then I can pass that down to my children and they can pass that down to their children. I leave the legacy on making sure my community is good.
Yeah.
And so what I found out is a lot of times our children, and even as they're young adults, they're dealing with certain mental health illnesses, disorders, diagnoses that they think they did something. When to come find out, when I have them to do their research, their parents have been dealing with it. And
It's
so if I
generational.
can leave the legacy of educating, like, listen here, you're just going to be predisposed to depression. Not mean that you have to live with it and deal with it, but it may come up. It may be triggered when you turn 21 and you so I'm going to encourage you to understand these are the signs. Make sure you have a therapist so you can process all of these things. And guess what? Be okay if you need to have some medication that will help you produce those chemicals that we talked about that'll help balance you out.
Wow. Wow. Well said. Well said. I hope y'all are paying attention. I hope y'all picking up the gems that Miss Goodrich
Listen.
is dropping. Also, you mentioned with an aspect of mental health, you guys operate with breast cancer. I
Mm-hmm.
believe I know October is Breast Cancer
Yeah.
Awareness Month, and so what does that look like in regards to you guys' team?
So we are putting out several informational videos around just different mental health um, aspects. So not just in May, but we understand. So of course, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Mm-hmm.
We understand when you get a cancer diagnosis, that impacts everything in your life.
Yes, absolutely.
Depression, anxiety will set in, depression will set in, imposter syndrome will set in.
Hmm.
It could impact my relationship with my friends, my family, because then I want to become isolated.
True.
And so I think understanding um how mental health is intersected in everything that we do
Everything. Yeah.
um is where we need to start. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Let's make another small pivot.
Mhm.
I was studying your bio and it mentioned how you have a love for traveling
Mhm.
and music.
Mhm.
And so, how do those activities help you reconnect and refill?
That's part of my self-care,
Yeah,
especially if I can travel, like it's not traveling for work, but if I can travel for pleasure, right? So if it's I love water. So
me
anywhere there
too.
is blue water, I want
Yeah,
to that's where I want to be. Um and of course music, it soothes all things. And so whether it is gospel, R&B, jazz, all of those
yeah.
things, it takes me to a place, right? So if
Hmm.
I'm upset, it can take me to a place where it calms me. And of course, because music has that influence,
Oh, yes, it
so
does.
all depends on what you're
Yeah,
listening
yeah,
to,
that's
right?
true.
And so traveling and music, good patio weather is always a
Ah,
plus
yes, yes,
for me. So
yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
I can attest to that when you talked about water. Now, I'm gonna put this out there. I'm not a great swimmer, but I do love being in jacuzzis. So
Mhm.
recently, I was in California. My wife's from Cali, and we was out there on vacation. And I was at her father's house, and he has a nice pool, but he also has a jacuzzi.
Mhm.
So I'm like, I know where I need to be. Let me get in this
Right.
jacuzzi. I have my earbuds in. I'm listening to music. The weather was great. Normally in Cali, it's between 80. And
Mhm.
so I'm just, relaxing. For me, that's part of my self
Right.
care,
Right.
making sure that I'm being refilled. So, like you said, earlier, we're not pouring from an empty cup, that
Right.
we're pouring from the overflow.
Right.
Going back to who are some of your favorite artists that you listen to?
Let me see. Right now, I don't know if I have a favorite artist.
Just,
Tasha Cobbs is always
oh
my
yeah,
favorite
of
regarding
course.
gospel. But regarding anything else,
Just
yeah, just
open.
yeah,
Yeah,
open.
yeah,
Yeah, I love a good love ballad.
yeah,
All of those things.
yeah.
A Shaka Khan
Oh
and
yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It's a good one.
but Jasmine Sullivan is definitely y'all can have Beyonce, Beehives don't come from me, but Jasmine
Ah,
Sullivan when it comes to vocals,
yes.
hands
Yeah.
down.
Jazz is a bad girl.
Yeah. So
Yeah. For
mhm.
me, I'll probably, yeah, I love Jasmine Sullivan. One of
Mhm.
my favorite male would probably be Music Soul Child. So
Mhm.
my
Yeah.
favorite male artist. But
Yeah.
now you're right. Music, man, has influence
Absolutely.
and definitely can shift your mood. But as we put a rapper on this show, this is one of my favorite parts of the show, my favorite segment. What's your library joy? As we kind of just talk about, our experiences with libraries or working with libraries, and also close the show asking Miss Goodrich. I've shared with her our beautiful displays over here to the
Yeah.
right, and just get her, insight, input of what she's excited to see. And so for you, what do those library experiences look like? Whether it's childhood, adulthood, or even now?
Yeah. I think as a childhood, my library of joy was this was really the first community hub,
Hmm.
right, for its programming
Wow.
and science activities for me, growing up. And of course, in the summertime, my mom was gonna drag us to the library so we can get us a book and we can read.
Yeah.
And then, you fill out the little, back in the day, Pizza Hut used to give you that little thing that you fill out so you can get you a free personal pan pizza
the
or Six
engineer,
Flags,
the engineer's agreeing.
a Six Flags ticket. So that was my library of joy
That's funny.
as I was looking at the renderings that you all have on the expansion of this library. I think I'm excited. I'll first say that, but I think the community has really kind of missed out, or there was a period where the libraries were phasing out, right?
True.
Because we were not
Yeah.
really using them.
Yeah.
But what I am seeing now and what you all are potentially bringing is what we need, from the food truck, going back to that community hub I talked
Community
about,
hub. Yeah.
but meeting the people's need from the food truck to the wildflower. I don't know if I see some gardening on
Yes.
there,
Definitely some gardening.
bringing things that our youth either haven't been exposed to, or they have, but it just kind of have died
Died out.
out.
Yeah. I
And
totally agree.
so I'm excited to see that, more programming, because not everybody can afford the Y, right? But if you come to the library, it's a safe space.
Yes.
You're gonna get
Yes.
the internet.
Yeah.
You are going to get resources that that's going to assist with work,
Yeah.
but then you're also going to get the other side of enrichment. And i'm I look forward to them being able to get their hands dirty and putting their hands in the dirt.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's also something that we use with our youth on a coping skill, right? Being one with the earth and being able to, that texture plays a
Yeah.
huge
Yeah.
part,
Yeah.
in sensory and so forth. So I'm excited and cannot wait to start seeing when you all break ground on that. And we will definitely be here to not only support but also promote.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Well said. Even you guys being here a couple of weeks ago,
Hmm.
we believe in the power of partnership. How can
Absolutely.
we come together and make sure that we have these innovative programs, these innovative events to make sure that people are getting their needs met? And
Right.
so I was, in and out watching you guys and stuff that you guys were talking about and the finger foods. I
Yeah.
go visit your mobile wellness truck. It was just great to see, man, knowing that we're coming together and
Yeah.
give people
Absolutely.
these avenues. And
Absolutely.
so yeah, I'm excited too, man. Like you mentioned earlier, to see the hands in the dirt, see
Absolutely.
it all come together. And so patience is key. I think one thing I'm mainly excited about is the outward appearance, the
Hmm.
ranch style view.
Hmm. That
Cause
was really,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, really
Cause
cool to be
yeah,
able to see.
when I first got here last year, I didn't even know that it was a library in for it. So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
and
Right.
so we want to make sure they're what I call is attention grabber.
Right.
People are driving down
Yeah.
Forest Hill
Yep.
Drive, they can see that. I'm like, oh wow,
Yeah.
that's pretty neat. So it's going to draw them to come in
Yeah.
and see what we have to offer.
Yeah.
So
So we want to be able to amplify the message,
yeah,
right, and expand the reach of what the library is doing, which was another reason why I was very strategic in making sure that our programming took place here.
wow,
So then people know what is here, and they can continue their partnership.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, that is the icing on the cake for today's show. This is Ordinary Conversations with Extraordinary People. Thank you,
You're
Ms.
welcome.
Goodrich, for a wealth of knowledge, for the gems in regards to mental health. What does that look like? Emotional intelligence, all the different, aspects of what you've done, from the Fort Worth housing, from the store area of Stop Six, just all the different things that you've done. I'm definitely grateful, and allowing, you to do your thing.
Thank
And
you for
so,
having me.
yeah, today was great. So,
Thank you.
guys, stay tuned as we continue to kick off the month of October. Don't go nowhere. We'll be right back in these orange seats next week at 12 p.m. Facebook Live. We'll be bringing on Pastor Derek Blair from New Breed Christian Center, which is right up the road. That's my guy. And so, y'all stay tuned, man. We'll see y'all soon. Peace.